destabilizing act that I saw in the past 4 years, maybe in the history of the department, is when Attorney General Garland decided on the basis of dubious facts and untested legal theories to criminally prosecute a former president of the United States. And not only that, this is the special part. He decided to do it after the former president of the United States had announced that he was going to run against Attorney General Garland's boss, didn't he?
Senator, are you referring to going after a political opponent?
I think so.
Senator Cruz would be next, but he's not here, so I call on Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, welcome. Congratulations. Can we agree that legitimacy is important to America's criminal justice system?
Yes, Senator.
Can we agree that legitimacy is important to the Department of Justice, which in part administers our criminal justice system?
Yes, Senator.
And if Americans come to believe that our criminal justice system or our Department of Justice is acting illegitimately, that makes Americans less likely to accept the results of that system, does it not?
Yes, Senator.
And that makes Americans less likely to follow the substantive laws that we pass that are administered by the Department of Justice. Isn't that true?
Yes, Senator.
And if that happens, we have chaos, don't we?
Chaos.
And the social contract is breached, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you remember a person by the name of Michael Avenatti?
Yes.
Several years ago, he was a media star here in Washington.
An attorney, correct?
Yes. He was a media star. And many members of our media loved him because he persistently bashed Donald Trump. And he was on TV every day. He was on CNN more than Wolf Blitzer. Do you know where Mr. Avenatti is today?
I believe he's sitting in prison, Senator.
He's in jail because he was a crook. And the Department of Justice helped put him there, didn't it?
Yes, Senator.
Do you remember a gentleman by the name of Sam Bankman-Fried?
Yes, Senator.
Boy genius. So smart and so powerful that he thought he could command the tides. So smart and so powerful and so rich that he would go to meetings with serious people like Bill Clinton, like Tony Blair, looking like a slob, looking like a fourth runner-up to a John Belushi lookalike contest. And he thought it was cute. Where's Mr. Bankman-Fried today?
I believe he is in prison, and I believe that's from the Netflix series I saw as well.
Mm-hmm. Because he's a crook. And who helped put him there?
The Department of Justice, Senator.
Can we agree that there's some really, really good men and women at the Department of Justice?
Many, many great men and women in the Justice Department, as well, Senator, as all the law enforcement agencies that fall within the Department of Justice. They're out there risking their lives, especially the law enforcement officers, every single day.
Can we agree, though, that there have been and may be today some bad people at the Department of Justice?
Yes, Senator.
We don't know for sure because for the last 4 years, the curtains there have been tightly drawn. But I think a minority of people there, have delegitimized America's criminal justice system. The most destabilizing act that I saw in the past 4 years, maybe in the history of the department, is when Attorney General Garland decided on the basis of dubious facts and untested legal theories to criminally prosecute a former president of the United States. And not only that, this is the special part. He decided to do it after the former president of the United States had announced that he was going to run against Attorney General Garland's boss, didn't he?
Senator, are you referring to going after a political opponent?
I think so. Now, this is one person's opinion. That kind of stupid takes a plan. And I say that because, number one, this is America. That had never happened before in America. That's the sort of thing that happens in a country whose Powerball jackpot is 287 chickens and a goat. It doesn't happen here. And I call it stupid because it broke the seal. It broke the seal. It normalized it. There are a lot of ambitious prosecutors in America, Democrat and Republican. And I'll bet you right now there's some prosecutor in a particular state thinking about, well, maybe I ought to file criminal charges against President Biden's inner circle for conspiring to conceal his mental decline. And that's the road we're headed down. And you've got to fix it, Counselor. You've got to fix it. And here's, in my judgment, what I would ask you to do. Find out who the bad guys are and the bad women and get rid of them. Find out who the good people are and lift them up. But do it on the basis of facts and evidence and fairness. Because the temptation of some people is going to be, they're going to tell you, look, two wrongs don't make a right, but they do make it even. Don't resist that temptation. Help us restore legitimacy to the Department of Justice.
Thank you, Senator.
It ends with an appeal not to party, but to something older and more fragile, legitimacy. Senator John Kennedy leans into the microphone, his voice slow but sharp, and lays out the stakes like a closing argument to the country itself. Legitimacy, he says, is the core of America's criminal justice system. Without it, the laws lose meaning. Without it, the Department of Justice stops being an institution and starts becoming a weapon. Across from him, Pam Bondi, the nominee who may soon inherit that power, agrees. Yes, legitimacy matters. Yes, if Americans come to believe the system is acting illegitimately, they will be less likely to accept its decisions. Yes, that leads to chaos. And yes, when that social contract breaks, something fundamental in the American experiment cracks with it. Kennedy doesn't rush. He walks the viewer through his case one name at a time. Michael Avenatti. Once a darling of the media, a constant presence on cable news as he savaged Donald Trump. For a moment, he was a symbol of resistance, of celebrity righteousness. And now, as Kennedy reminds the room, he's in prison. Because he was a crook, Kennedy says bluntly. And who helped put him there? The Department of Justice. Then Sam Bankman-Fried, the boy genius. The billionaire in shorts and a T-shirt, walking into rooms with world leaders looking like a fourth runner-up in a John Belushi look-alike contest, as Kennedy jabs. He was adored, courted, treated as the future. Now he, too, is behind bars. Because he's a crook, Kennedy repeats. Again, the punchline lands the same way. The Department of Justice helped put him there. In those stories, Kennedy is drawing a line. He's acknowledging the many, many great men and women inside the DOJ, the agents and lawyers who risk their lives and careers to uphold the law. But then he pivots. There are also bad people, he says. A minority, but real. people who, in his words, have delegitimized America's criminal justice system. And then he names the moment he believes crossed that line: Attorney General Merrick Garland's decision to criminally prosecute a former president of the United States. To Kennedy, that wasn't just a case, it was a rupture, an act, maybe in the history of the department, unlike anything before. He calls the legal theories untested, the facts dubious. But what shocks him most is the timing. Garland's DOJ moved after that former president announced he would run against Garland's own boss, the sitting president. That, Kennedy says, is the kind of thing you expect in broken countries, not in the United States. He describes it with a flourish that sounds funny until you hear the fear underneath. That this is what happens in a place whose Powerball jackpot is 287 chickens and a goat. It's not supposed to happen here. In Kennedy's telling, that choice by Garland broke the seal. It normalized the idea that criminal prosecutions could be turned on political rivals at the highest level, and seals, once broken, don't easily go back. He warns that somewhere out there, right now, there may be ambitious prosecutors, Democrats and Republicans alike, watching this precedent and thinking, if they did it to him, maybe I can do it to them. Maybe I can charge members of President Biden's inner circle. Maybe I can make my own case built on accusations of concealed mental decline or some future scandal, real or imagined. That, Kennedy says, is the road we're on. A road where law becomes a mirror of political vengeance, where every administration inherits not just power, but a list of targets. And that's where Pam Bondi comes in. In his framing, she isn't just a nominee. She's the person standing at a crossroads for the Department of Justice, the one who will either reinforce this new normalized spiral or try to stop it. You've got to fix it, counselor, he tells her. Not gently, not as a suggestion, as an instruction born of urgency. Find out who the bad actors are, he says, the bad guys and the bad women, and get rid of them. Find the good ones and lift them up. But do it the old-fashioned way, on the basis of facts, evidence, and fairness, not on the basis of revenge. He warns her about the temptation she will face from voices whispering that two wrongs don't make a right, but they do make it even. You can feel the gravity of that line. It is the logic of payback, of weaponizing the same tools that you condemn in your enemies. It is how democracies slide further into tit-for-tat prosecutions, each side claiming moral justification while legitimacy drains away drop by drop. Kennedy's plea is simple and stark. Resist that temptation. Help restore legitimacy to the Department of Justice. In that moment, the hearing becomes more than a personnel decision. It becomes a referendum on what justice will mean in the years ahead. Is the DOJ an independent institution, guided by the same blindfolded Lady Justice we teach our children about in civics class? Or is it becoming something else, an instrument that changes shape depending on who holds the handle? For all the humor and color in Kennedy's language, the underlying question is deadly serious. What happens to a nation when its people stop believing that prosecutors are driven by law instead of politics? Laws can still be written, cases can still be filed, trials can still be held. But the moral authority behind them, what makes a verdict feel binding, even to the defeated, begins to crumble. Without legitimacy, punishment looks like persecution, accountability looks like attack, And once that perception takes hold, the damage is not easily undone. As Pam Bondi sits before the committee, she is being asked to do more than answer questions. She is being asked to inherit a department that, in Kennedy's eyes and in the eyes of millions, is now carrying the weight of broken trust. She is being asked to decide whose voices will define justice going forward, those calling for balance or those calling for payback. When the cameras turn off and the senators leave the room, that question doesn't go away. It waits. In courtrooms, in U.S. attorneys' offices, in grand juries, in every decision about who gets investigated and who does not. That is why you are watching this. Because the future of American justice is being shaped one hearing at a time in exchanges like this, where a senator from Louisiana looks at a would-be attorney general and says, plainly, "Fix it. Restore legitimacy. If you believe that these choices shouldn't be made in the dark, if you believe the Department of Justice must be more than a political tool, if you believe legitimacy is not a luxury, but the foundation of the law, then don't just tune in for the headlines. Stay with us. Subscribe to Congress Signal. Support our work so we can keep bringing you inside these hearings, into these moments when power is questioned and the future of justice is argued, one microphone, one word, one warning at a time.